what do you do if your MacBook doesn't turn on? So you have it plugged in. If you have one of those voltage testers that I showed in some of my other videos, you can see if it's drawing any amps, any voltage, anything like that. You need 20 volts, I think 4 to 5 amps. But, so let's say this one not obviously, but this one does turn on. You'll see in a second. But what do you do if it gets stuck on the Apple logo and it doesn't have a loading bar, or the loading bar doesn't load? There's a few different things you can do. If you turn it on and it will not run without the cord being plugged in, or if it will run with the cord being plugged in, but it turns on and that progress bar does not load, and you just have a really high fan spin, and it just, goes 0 to 60 as soon as you hit the button, that's more than likely going to be your battery, is what I found in most cases. What that loading bar does is, so what that loading bar is on a MacBook, or an iMac, or Mac Studio, or Mac Mini, any of the Macs, even your phone. What it is, I don't remember the exact order it goes in, but I think it's kernel extensions and the launch daemons, which the kernel extensions is the firmware that starts everything. It's the absolute bare minimum script of the coding that you need to turn on your computer. The daemons are then the underlying stuff for the GUI and stuff. So what do you do if the progress bar doesn't go any further? Well, there's a few things you can do. One, if you think it turns on, if it has a boot chime and you hear it, but you don't see anything on the screen, what you can do, come down here, and you can see that the caps lock has a light on it, of course. Another thing you can do is shine a really bright flashlight on your screen. If you have the white Apple logo on the back, you can shine a bright flashlight in the back. And if you see an image, that means that your backlight went out. It's possible that the circuit on the motherboard is blown, but it's also it's very common for the screens to have their backlights go out as well. So in that case, it might be worth it to buy another screen or a laptop, and you just, swap the two in and see if your screen comes back. And also with the touch bar here, you'll be able to see it light up if it does turn on. Another thing that you can do, try different ports on your laptop with the charger. Try different chargers. If you're not using an Apple original charger, sometimes they're picky. Sometimes you need to use an Apple original charger, unfortunately. Another thing you can do, look in your ports. If this doesn't plug in all the way, if it doesn't look like that, you got something in your port. You're going to want to clean that out or take it to someone who can. And I mean, be careful if you do clean out your port. Use rubbing alcohol and really small, fine tweezers, and make sure that your MacBook's turned off. And clean it out. If you have a microscope, fantastic. If you're not, use a magnifying glass or your eyeballs and a decent light. What else might happen is it turns on flashing folder. Flashing folder with a question mark on it means that it can't find the boot software. It can't find any operating system on the laptop, and so you'd want to reload it on there, and then it might possibly boot into a thing with a globe spinning. What that would be is that's trying to do internet recovery, and we'll get to that in a second. Really quick, one other thing you can do to see if your backlight's burned out, or if your screen just straight up quit, or if maybe one of your kids or something destroyed your screen and you can't tell that the screen's broken. If you do have an adapter or a USB-C monitor, hook up an external monitor. See if it powers another monitor, if a picture goes to it. If it does, fantastic. That means that your screen's bad, your graphics card and everything is working. But if it doesn't, then it very well could be a power problem. Also, these laptops they're really finicky. When the batteries start going out, they start doing really weird things. So what you'll notice is sometimes you'll be running a really high CPU task. You'll be editing videos, or you'll be doing boot camp on an Intel, something that demands a lot out of the CPU or the GPU, something that takes a lot of power. If your battery's going bad and you're not plugged in, even if you are plugged in and it dies, and it turns back, and you turn it back on and it acts like that, you know, that there's been nothing going on, what's going on is your battery is dead. Completely dead. You need to replace your battery, or take it to someone who can. Because even though your power supply, you'd think, would be able to power your laptop by itself, for intensive things, it is not. It uses the battery as an extra reservoir to give it that little extra power that it needs to run the really high CPU or GPU task. So if you do not have that, then you need to have that. Another thing, if, when you're doing this, if, and it gets stuck on the Apple logo, if it gets stuck on the Apple logo with the loading bar, again, the kernel extensions, that could be a problem, or the daemons, the launch daemons could be a problem. So what you're going to want to do in that case, another thing you could do is turn your computer back off, and if it's an Intel, hit the power button, turn it back on, and hold down Shift. That will start it into safe mode. If it is an Apple Silicon, which we went over on how to discover that, then that will be, hold down the power button, it will come up into your options, and then when you go to options, like I said before, you're going to hold down the shift button and click on your hard drive, and then that will take you into safe mode that way if it's a M1. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it'll make it work, sometimes it won't. Okay, here's how you get to recovery mode in case you need to do like a reinstall OS, which you can do without deleting any of your files. It won't hurt your files. Sometimes it fixes your problem, sometimes it doesn't. You can also get to disk utility this way if you need to run first aid on it, if you want to erase it, if you want to repartition. You can also get to Safari just in case you need to look up something really quick, trying to figure out how to diagnose it or anything, get to Apple support. You can get to Time Machine, or you can, not Time Machine, you can get to the startup utilities. You can turn on secure boot, you can turn off secured boot, so then you can boot off of a thumb drive, and any of the things above. So here's how you do it. You hold down, you hit the power button really quick, and you do Command R. And it's gonna turn on, you're gonna see the Apple for a few seconds, and you're just gonna hold it there for about 5 or so seconds, just to make sure that it recognizes that you're holding down those buttons. And then you're gonna let go, and then you're just gonna stand here and watch, and you're gonna wait for it. And now you see how it flashed, and now it's got the loading bar. So it's going to take a good 2 minutes or so, so I will come back when it is fully loaded. Actually, no, I won't. Really quick. If you are trying to get into recovery mode and you do this, and it does not work, it says that there's an error, you can't do it on the startup disk or something like that, you might need to do your restore with the Apple II configurator? I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the app at the moment, but so if you can't get through your recovery and you already have it on secure boot and you can't boot off of a thumb drive, then you're gonna have to wipe this using the Apple configurator too. That's what it is. And that's what you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to either revive it or restore it. That way you're not gonna be able to get to your recovery screen if it's not gonna let you. You can try to do internet recovery. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. It depends on how bad your motherboard is fried. Well, fried is a general term, or a relative term. I don't actually mean it as in damaged, I just mean it as in the firmware on it. It has a problem. So you can restore from Time Machine Backup, reinstall your Mac OS. This will reinstall whatever Mac OS you have installed on your machine. There's different boot commands, which I'm going to do a whole video on. There's another one that will let you boot with, or reinstall what came on it, or what's the latest one. But so let's say you need to go to disk utility. You can go to disk utility, you can go, okay, here's my internal, because it says internal. You can even do view and show all devices. And these are all the partitions inside of all your hard drives. So say this one, my internal one is having a problem, I'll just go over here, I'll hit first aid, and I'll hit run first aid. And it's gonna run first aid, and if it comes back good, good. And from here, I can wipe it. Sometimes if you try to wipe your drive from the internal memory, it doesn't like it. It thinks that you're trying to make it commit suicide. It doesn't like that. You'll need to boot off of a thumb drive more than likely for that. And since these have solid state drives instead of HDDs, you're not going to be able to secure erase them either. You just erase them, and then use them for a little while afterwards until it's finally dumped all of its memory and pretty much rewritten over it. So if you don't need to do anything here, if you don't need to partition or restore or erase or anything, Command Q out of it. And then you can go up here to utilities. So this is where you'd go if you need to do your thumb drive. So you'd go to like startup security utility, you enter your Mac OS password. Hopefully you know it. If you don't, you're gonna have to reset password first in terminal, which will have a video on that. And you can see here it's on medium security and allow booting external from removable media. You can disable that so that no one can hook up a thumb drive. You can put it on full security. I could go into details on that, but I'm trying to do a quick and dirty video here for you guys. And I know that you guys are probably in a hurry trying to fix your Mac, and I don't want to take all your time. So then you do that. You turn that on like exactly how I had it. You allowed the bootable media. So then you can do your thumb drive. So you can erase it, you can wipe it, you can erase it, you can reinstall, you can put whatever OS you want on it. The Apple has a whole list on what it will allow on what computers and what it won't. But that's how you get into this. That's how you get into recovery on your laptop. That's an Intel. Now I'm going to show you how to do it on a M1. Actually, no. I'm going to show you guys how to boot off of a thumb drive on this now. And then I will show you all of the steps on an M1 as well. So stay tuned. Okay, so here's how you make a bootable installer for your Mac. You can, what I like to do is I like to go to this Apple support website. I'll leave a link down in the description. But what you do is you go here to download Mac OS, and you select the Mac OS that you want. If it's anything below High Sierra, they're going to have a whole different way of making a bootable installer. So you want to follow those instructions. But this is for pretty much anything that's like a 2013, 2014 and newer. So I already have Monterey and Big Sur installed. So what you're going to do next is you're going to go over here to your disk utility, and you're going to plug in your USB. So I'll do that, and I'll get back to you in just a moment. Okay, so now I have disk utility pulled up. You can see here that this is my external media. I already have it set up for Monterey, but we'll go on ahead and erase it. So hit erase, and so with this, if we go back away from the software side of it, we go down, it has all these commands. In this command, you will see it say right here at the very end, my volume. And what that is that's the name of your thumb drive. I like to name my volumes, then I don't have to mess with the code at all. I just go on ahead and do it exactly how it has it. Because if you even have the capitalization off, it's not going to like it. So just like that, my volume, hit erase, give it a few seconds. And we're good. Now I just go back. I'm going to select Monterey once again. I'm going to copy that. And I'm just going to pull up terminal. Okay, so I got terminal pulled up. I'm going to Command V, put that in. It's going to want my password, super secure password. It's going to say, are you sure you want to erase it? You hit Y for yes. Go on ahead, it's going to erase the disk, and then it's going to say copying to disk with a percentage after it reaches 100 on erasing the disk. And then after that, see making disk bootable, and then it's going to say copying to disk. And then after that, it's going to say finished, and you'll go to the next line to where you can type in again. And at that point in time, you're safe to eject and remove your media. If you do it before then, your bootable installer will not work. One thing I do think that I should tell you is it will take quite a while. Downloading the software, especially the newer stuff, it just gets bigger and bigger. So like High Sierra, I think is like 8 gigs, and it goes all the way up to like 12 gigs with Monterey, I think. So it will take a decent chunk of time. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that is how it is. And then, Once it downloads, you're going to go and do terminal like I showed. And you see here how it says copy into disk 0, 10, 20, 30. Sometimes it'll get stuck and then all of a sudden jump to like 80. It just depends on what's going on. But, so that's how you do all of that. And also, really quick, if you guys did want to do this on a Macintosh or anything, you cannot make a bootable installer on a Macintosh. You cannot make a bootable installer on a Windows machine. Only Macintosh, only a Mac Studio, anything with Mac OS. No, you can't do it with your phone either. You can only do it on a Mac. So, and I know that on eBay there's people that sell the USBs. I don't know if I trust them, but they're there. So yeah, if you do need a USB made, maybe find a friend or a library or something that might have an Apple that you can do it on. And another thing with making a USB installer is if you're trying to, if you have an M1 and you're trying to make any older OS, so anything before Big Sur really, it won't do it. It'll say no, it's too old for your system, which is true, but it's just because Apple didn't want to program it to where you could make those. And then that's where you have to have an Intel, and you have to be able to use your Intel to make the older ones. And if you want to make even older ones than that, then you have to have an even older machine. It's kind of dumb how they did it, but that's how they did it, so, yeah. Okay, so now if you look here, you can see that it was copying to disk all the way to 100%. Don't take it out once you see 100%. Wait until you see this other message and see it pop down to it. A new line. So you now see that install media is not available. And so now you should have a bootable USB. That is exactly how you make them. Now you can just take and boot that directly off your computer and get your recovery mode, reinstall, whatever you need to do. So there you go. Really quick, one last thing. Go on ahead and hit eject on the install disk. So then that way, you're safe to remove it, you're not going to damage it, and you're not going to damage the information on your computer either. So there you go. Okay, so you've done the steps that I've shown you with the link in the description on how to do a bootable thumb drive. Hopefully you have a USB-C one. If not, you're going to need an adapter. And this is for any MacBooks from like, 2009 all the way to brand new. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need your thumb drive with your OS on it, made it bootable. Not just drag it on, but made it bootable. On an Intel, here's how you do it. You hit power and hold down option. Doesn't matter which option, just hold down option. It's going to turn on. You're going to see the Apple logo. Pretty soon, you're going to see it pop up. See? So this one here, this Macintosh HD, that's your internal drive. If you wanted to do safe mode, you'd hold down shift and then click it, and it will take you into safe mode. That will just use the bare minimum kernel extensions. And then that way you know that the firmware on the motherboard is bad, it might need to restore. Sometimes that doesn't help. Sometimes it just means that the motherboard went kaput. So then you can go into install Mac OS, Monterey, or whichever one you have. It's going to load for a second, and then, and it could take a couple minutes, right? And I'll show you that when we get. Okay, so literally it's the same exact thing as the recovery screen that you could do with Command R. However, this will allow you to wipe the internal hard drive on your computer. To your computer, this is pretty much thinking this is your hard drive right now. It's not thinking that the internal hard drive is your hard drive. This is your hard drive at the moment. It's running off of this. Do not unplug it. So it pulls up this. Again, you can do any of these other things here as well. It just makes it to where you can wipe it, and it's just way easier. It takes out a lot of other variables if you just boot off of a thumb drive, especially with the older Macs with the actual physical hard spinning disk. If you boot off of a thumb drive, then that way you know for a fact that there's nothing really the matter with the motherboard, and it could just be your hard drive. But so that's how you get to here. what you would do if you needed to wipe it is you go into just utility, you select your internal, and then you'd hit erase. Now, you'd want to name it whatever you want to name it, but depending on what software you're putting on it, if you're putting Big Sur or anything newer on it, you're going to need APFS. If anything older, you're going to want Macintosh Journaled. It's not going to have that on here for our option because we're booting off of a Monterey disk. If we were booting off of anything older than a Big Sur on a computer that would allow it, it would allow you to do Macintosh Journaled or any of the other. Okay, so as you've seen there, it erased it. We're good to go. And then, see, it'll do this, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and quit out of it. We'll go into install macOS. We'll hit continue. And we'll just go on ahead and we'll install macOS from here. And you just walk through all the steps with it. It's going to want internet turned on because Apple does that so you can't steal a laptop. So then that way, if you have Find My or anything turned on, it'll inform people. That's another thing. If you go to wipe it and it has Find My turned on, you will want to turn off Find My on your phone, or if you know your password and stuff, it's going to ask you for your password and stuff. If you're doing it for a friend, you're going to want their password. If you bought it off of someone or anything like that, you're going to want to contact them and have them turn the Find My off of it. Apple will not remove it unless you have a receipt proving that you bought it from them or a reputable vendor. Amazon is one of them. And I think that's the only other reputable vendor. They do not consider eBay a vendor. They don't consider your buddy in front of Walmart a vendor. Them or Amazon are the only vendors that they'll allow. Okay, so now we're on an M1. How do you know it's an M1? First off, you can go down here to the function button. If it has a globe on it, it's more than likely an M1. Now, that doesn't guarantee it. People rearrange buttons all the time. They can take it off of a different laptop, put it on there. So you could have an Intel. Another better way to tell, a more surefire way, is this is also how you get to the recovery screen, but just hold down the power button. Really simple. Hold it down for about 10 seconds. And see how it says continue holding for startup options? You're going to continue holding that until it says loading. Then you're good to let go. And then when it loads, and that's how you tell it's an M1, but then when it loads, you're going to be able to see what options are available for you to be able to do. Now, if you want to get to your recovery screen, you're just going to click options. If you want to do safe mode, you hold down shift and you click your hard drive. So we can go into options and continue. It's going to load, it's going to bring up the recovery screen just exactly as you've seen before. So it's going to come up with a screen. I'm not going to show it because the one part has my name on it. Well, I guess I can do this. It'll come up with a screen like this. It'll want a password for at least one of them. Enter your password for at least one of them. If you do not know, you're going to need to do reset password in terminal. Apple is trying to get away from being able to do that because it's unsecure. So hopefully you know your password. So let me hurry and enter my password. Okay, so once you enter your password, this is exactly what's going to come up. Looks exactly like one of these recovery screens that you'd see anywhere else. You can go up to utility, startup utility, terminal. Oh, and then this is where you get your shared disk. I forgot about that. So this is target disk mode. And you can do here, you go to your recovery screen and hit share disk. They put it behind the password because in that way, no one can just grab your computer and start moving files off of it, which I think is a good idea. So you can go to startup security utility, which mine should not have. Yeah, mine's encrypted. So what you're going to do is then type in your password. You're then going to hit enter. It's going to load. It just wants the password from your laptop, usually. Other times, it just depends on if you set up a different password aside from it or not. It's going to load. It's going to bring up startup security utility. As soon as it loads, and then you hit security policy. Then you can do reduced security, and you can allow remote management. You have to turn it to reduce security to boot off of a thumb drive. You can't just boot off of a thumb drive on it, as far as I remember. And then we can just command Q out of that. You can also put a terminal here on either an Intel or an M1. And you can do things in terminal. You can look at files. If you need to reset your password, just type in reset password, hit enter. See, reset password, hit enter, and then it'll run a script. And then after it runs that script, it's going to want you to reset a password for all of the users on the computer. Put in whatever password you want, just don't forget it. And then it's going to want you to restart your computer. Restart it, and then boom, you have your password again. And then if you need to go into security utility at that point to turn on reduced security, you can. So that is what you do. And we can just go on ahead and hit shut down. Actually, really quick, I wanted to show what it would be like to boot up off of M1 with a thumb drive in it. This is with it on full security, just to show you what will happen with it on full security. So you hold down your power button, wait for options to pop up. And along with options and your hard drive, it will pop up with... Okay, so I apologize if the video is different. My phone died, so I had to go over and use my wife's GoPro. So, what you're going to see is you're going to see all these options pop up here. You can go on ahead and click this. Again, if you want to go to safe mode, you can, but I'm pretty sure actually it might let us boot off of it. Yeah, it does. Okay, so let us boot off of it, which is fantastic. That, again, rules out things on the hard drive, things like that, lets you know that everything else is good. And it's going to pop up with my name, which I'm covering for my privacy reasons, and it's going to show my picture and want you to put in your password. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my password now, and I'll be right back. So then it's going to pop up with this little window here saying yeah, anyways, you can read that. So then we're going to hit exit to recovery. It's going to pop up straight into the installer. If you do not need to install, or you don't want to install right now, you need to wipe, you can go on ahead and hit Command Q, or just go up to your Apple and hit quit. And then you're just going to hit quit again. And now it's going to bring up this exactly like it was before. And then this way you can also, get to everything else that you need to do. Again, you can do share disk. But now it is thinking that this is your hard drive and not the hard drive inside your computer. So here's how you do it, and you'd wipe it the exact same way that you would the Intel. I'll show you just in case you need to know. You can go into here, continue, load. You can click on your internal storage, make sure it's internal, not your external. You don't want to erase your external storage, okay? And so then you're going to go on over here to erase. Well, first, if you want, you can do first aid, run first aid on it. Make sure that, try to save your information if you want. If not, then you hit erase. I'm not going to do it because I need the stuff on this computer. So then we're going to go on ahead, you'd go on ahead, hit erase, and then follow the instructions through. And then when you're done, again, with M1, you're going to have to do APFS. There's no others. You can't do Mac Journal or anything like that. So then you just reinstall exactly like before, and then you can boot up off your installer, and click reinstall and click continue. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hurry and try to remember what it is to boot into Internet Recovery. Okay, so dug a little bit further into it. This is exactly what I remember from my training. I just couldn't remember it at the moment. Glad that I read this again. It's a good refresher. Anyways, back to the story. Command R, as you see, will reinstall whatever was on your laptop when you went into recovery. Option Command R will allow you to do it over the internet, but it will upgrade you to whatever is the latest software available for your computer at that point in time. Option Shift Command R will allow you to do it over internet recovery, once again, just like the Option Command R, but this time it will reinstall, or give you the option to reinstall with the internet, or with, using the internet to reinstall the OS that originally came on your laptop from the factory from Apple themselves. So those are your options right there: Command R, Option Command R, and Option Shift Command R. All of those will allow you to be able to start up in Internet Recovery. Well, the last two will. Command R will just be off of your actual system itself. I hope you give the awkward position shots but you're gonna go power option command R. Now you don't exactly have to hit the power button. It'll turn on by itself, but I like to hit the power button. Now this is what it's gonna come up with. So you see that globe? Hold on one second. Okay, so if you ever go to start up your Mac, you see this globe. It means internet recovery. So, the one that I did, the key commands that I pushed in, will give me the newest Mac OS to install when I get to Mac OS recovery. Now, in order to do this, you're going to have to choose network. If you can, I highly recommend having an adapter with a hard Ethernet line running into it. If you don't, and your Wi-Fi is a bit iffy, it can have problems. And so then you would put in your network, you'd select it, you'd type in your password, and then you'd go on ahead and I would go through. And it's going to show up, and it's going to say this may take a while, and then eventually it'll show up with a 00 dot dot 03 or dot dot 15 or dot dot 30. You know, it's going to give you it in hours and minutes, not seconds, hours and minutes. And if you ever get to this screen and you've tried all the other options, and you get to this screen and it just says it's gonna, and the time keeps going up and up and up, and it eventually gets to 24 hours, and you've left it even overnight, and it just doesn't get anywhere, that's your battery. You're gonna need a new battery. It will not work just off of the charger. It is saying it is done. You're gonna need a new battery. So there you go. That's how you get to internet recovery. I hope that helps. I am now going to show the Apple configurator. So on the M1s, you're going to need to plug into the top port 90% of the time. It'll tell you in the link that I left. On the Intel, you're going to need to be plugged into the bottom port. I put it into DFU mode by going power, shift, control, and option. So control, option, shift, power. Hold all four down at once while you have Apple configurator pulled up over here. Even if your laptop, even if your Intel or whatever is turned on, your or your bad computer, it will it'll turn off. And so then you'll see it pop up over here in your Apple configurator. So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go right click, and you can do restore. But if you don't want to do restore first, go to advanced and then revive. See right there, that's the key. So then you hit revive, and it will load. I'm not going to do it because I just barely reinstalled OS on that, and I don't want to sit here for another 45 minutes. But it'll go through, and it will have if it's done properly and there's nothing bad happening, it'll have an Apple logo show up with the loading bar just like usual, and it will go very slowly, and it'll have a loading bar over here, and they'll both match up for the most part. And so then that's going to revive the firmware on your bad computer, hopefully without hopefully it'll help it without hurting. I'm phrasing that wrong. It should hopefully fix the firmware on your motherboard. It will not hurt your data. However, if that does not work, what you're then going to do is you're going to come back over here to your Apple configurator, and you're going to go to, and you can update it, but you're going to hit restore. And what that's going to do, like I said earlier in the video, it's going to wipe everything off your hard drive. It's going to wipe the firmware off of your motherboard. It's going to just remove everything, and then it's going to reinstall that firmware, and then it's going to come up with your recovery screen. And you're going to be able to go into your recovery, well, when I say recovery screen, I mean it's going to go to internet recovery, because there's not going to be anything else in it. You might possibly be able to boot off of a thumb drive, but you also might not. So then, what you'll do is you'll just do internet recovery, just like I showed, and you're going to make sure your hard drive should be erased. You can make sure if you want, and you're going to install your OS. You're going to always wipe it again and put whatever other OS on it, but this is what you need to do to get it back up and running. And this is going to be pretty successful in my experience, is doing this kind of stuff. I don't know why, but the motherboards kind of lose their brains sometimes, and need a kick in the pants to get their firmware fixed. So that's how you're going to do that. And then when it's done, you're totally fine to unplug this. You don't need to eject anything, nothing like that. Another good thing to have is a few extra Apple chargers if you have them. Plug in your host Mac, plug in your trying to revive Mac, and then that way they won't die in the middle of it. Because if they die in the middle of it, it's just going to be a bigger headache. So that is how you do that. I will try to think of anything else on what to do if your MacBook will not start. But that is everything that I can think of under the sun that could be wrong with it. If none of those options work, another thing you can do at that point is then take and open up your MacBook and just open it up, flip it over, open it up if you have the screwdriver and stuff, and just look around. See if you can see any liquid damage. Maybe your kids or something poured a glass of water on it. They didn't want to tell you because they're afraid you're going to get mad. And you might find water damage. You might find that your battery is swollen. If your battery is swollen, if the bottom of your Mac is popped out, you're gonna need a new battery. Don't even try. Okay, just get your battery replaced first, and then go on ahead and go from there. For the DFU mode, so as you can see, it's in DFU. That's another thing that you want to do. If you have a buddy that has a laptop, or if you have a laptop yourself and the screen won't turn on, okay, another thing that you can do, plug it into another Mac. See if it's in DFU mode. Turn it off. Turn it back on. So when it's in DFU mode like that, you just unplug it, and you hold down the power button. That's it. And it'll just come right back from that, and it'll turn on no problem. Yeah, and then you're just gonna hold down the power button. It'll turn on just like that. You might have to unplug it, let it sit for a few minutes, maybe 30 seconds, I should say, and then hit the power button again. It just needs a second to think, and then you just hit it, and it'll turn on. Boom, there you go. Problem solved. So that is how you do all of those. Another thing that could be a problem, a lot of these MacBooks, in order to get power to the motherboard, they run the power through the trackpad first. Don't ask me why, but they do. So it could be that as well. It could be one of your ports on your sides are shorting out. One of your kids might have stuck some peanut butter in there. I have seen that. You would be surprised at what I've seen. So yeah, I think that's everything that I can think of. The only other thing that you can do at that point is to open it up, like I said, check for water damage, swollen batteries, any deformities in the batteries, or another thing that you can do is just start unplugging things. Not while the battery's plugged in. That's a terrible piece of advice. Unplug the battery first. And if you want, check the voltage while you're there. If you feel comfortable with dealing with that, and you know that you're not going to short it out, and you know how to use a multimeter. And then after that, just go on ahead, unplug the speakers from the motherboard. Plug it back into the power. See if it turns on. Of course, with the battery unplugged. Unplug the battery first. Plug it in. See if it even has any life at that point. The battery may be causing a problem at that point, and the battery may be bad. I've seen that before. Start unplugging things. And just see if it turns on. The biggest thing that you need is for the fan to spin. Sometimes you have to unplug the fan. Sometimes the fan got wet, or the motor in it went out and it seized and it's taking too much power and it's shorting things out. I've seen that too. So yeah, at that point you're really going into the laptop. I was trying to help you guys first without going into the laptop. For your every common everyday person who's just trying to get homework done or something, and your MacBook just craps out on you. So if you guys have any questions or concerns or comments, just go on ahead and comment down below, and I'll be happy to help you guys figure things out from there. If you go into a Genius Bar, or if you talk to Apple online, they're going to tell you a lot of the same steps I did, but not all of them. Some of these steps I've just learned through experience. I've talked to the Apple geniuses before. I've even talked to the repair technicians behind that. And I've learned things that they don't know about. So there you go. Anyways, thanks.